Sorry for the delay, guys, but we need a quorum, which is 4. So we need either Katie or Tim to join.
Debbie Tomas.
Yeah. Did somebody just join?
I just saw her in the hall.
I'll tell her.
Just saw her until I have the.
Katie Boskin did.
Baskin is here.
Okay, hey, Katie. How are you?
Hey, Katie. Great. Thank you.
Hi, everybody.
Good morning, everyone. I'd like to call the Wednesday, February 8th, 9:30 a.m. meeting of the North Carolina ABLE Program Board of Trustees to order. I'd like to open the meeting and honor Miss Wheelchair, North Carolina, Allie Ingersoll, who is starting her reign as Miss Wheelchair America 2023. I'd like to recognize the recent passage of the ABLE Age Adjustment Act as part of the Secure 2.0, signed into law by President Biden in December. This raises the age of eligibility from 26 to 46 and opens the door for additional ABLE account holders, including veterans, to achieve a better life experience. So we appreciate Congress doing that. We're going to be working on accelerating the effective date of that new law. And I talked to Senator Burr about this last week in Winston-Salem. He's no longer a senator, but might be able to help us. Members and public, there will be a public comment period for organizations and individuals to address the board later in the agenda. I want to thank all the staff for making this event jump up on the table by itself. I'm going to call the roll and then hand the meeting over to Tom, the chair. Continuing with our efforts to increase government transparency, the Treasurer's Office, we are calling the meeting to order. Just to remind you that any conversations, including those on personal devices through text messages regarding the events of this meeting, are considered public record. And as a reminder, please mute your phone and when not speaking. And if you do speak, please identify yourself for the meeting minutes. So would you please call the roll?
Treasurer Falwell.
Here.
Catherine Boskin.
Present.
Melinda Plew.
Here.
Marquita Robertson.
Here.
Robertson.
Here,
Chris
Marquita's
Egan.
here. Sorry.
Thank you. Chris Egan. Tim Smith.
All right, we have a quorum. The Ethics Act, please take a moment to review the agenda. Does anyone have a present, actual, or potential of a conflict of interest regarding the matters that are before us? Hearing none, should a conflict arise during the meetings, please make the chairman aware. We'll start by asking for a motion to approve the meeting minutes of November 9th.
Do we have a motion?
Marquita, I motion.
Second, Treasurer Falwell. Treasurer Falwell, second. Any further discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll, approving the meeting minutes of November 9th.
Catherine Boskin.
Aye.
Melinda Plew. Melinda.
Aye.
Thank you. And Tim Smith. Chris Egan. Okay.
And this is Treasurer Falwell again. You're about to get some good information, and I appreciate everybody sticking with us so that we have enough people to adjourn the meeting. Thank you, Tom.
Thanks.
Thank you, Jeff.
All right, next item number 4 is administrative update. Jeff?
Great. Thank you all and welcome to our February meeting. Wanted just to cover a few items as well as giving you some good news. As the treasurer had just mentioned, back in December as part of Secure 2.0, that included the ABLE Adjustment Act, which will increase the age for eligibility from 26 to 46. That currently is effective with years starting in 2026, but as you heard the treasurer mentioned, they're going to look to see if there's any way for the government to accelerate that effective date. With that, this bill will actually increase the folks that are eligible for an ABLE account from around 8 million eligible people to around 14 million eligible people. And that would include about one a million veterans as well, which is great to hear because one of the stats we've learned of is the average age of a service member to retire due to a medical disability is 34 years old for enlisted members and 39 years old for officers. So having that age raised up to 46 will really help the veteran community. Also want to share with the board that we have a new state that will be joining the alliance. So the state of New Hampshire, who is currently part of another consortium through the Stable program, which is sponsored by the state of Ohio. They have petitioned us to join our National ABLE Alliance, and the alliance voted yes on that, and so we will be working.
Still sharing.
If they can still see your screen, and they can hear us, then we can keep going. All right.
Christie says we can.
We can hear that. I'm just letting you hear Christie.
Yep. So I'm not quite sure where we had cut out. Pardon me if I repeat something that you've already heard. I'm going to go back to where I was mentioning that.
Christie said New Hampshire.
Okay, New Hampshire. So the state of New Hampshire had made a request to the alliance to join our program. They're currently a member of another consortium, which is the Stable program, which is sponsored by the state of Ohio. The alliance voted unanimously for them to join us, and so we will be working with the alliance as well as our program manager at Census to transition them into our program during the year. As we had talked about at our last board meeting, there were some new federal regs that were finalized and went into effect on the 20th of November. I did want to make mention that our online enrollment process has been impacted by that. We have two situations, which is an entity who is trying to open an account for an eligible minor, as well as someone who's trying to open an account on behalf of an eligible adult who has legal capacity. Those two are not currently operational in the online enrollment. So when those two situations occur, we have to defer those to a paper enrollment form. The alliance, and that is something that is that impacts the alliance wide. It impacts all of the members, and we are working with the program manager of Census to rectify those issues and get the proper programming in place. And at this point in time, we do not have a target date in which we will have that implemented, but just know that the alliance is working very hard to get that put into place. And then the last thing that I wanted to share, which is good news, the alliance crossed over the 35,000 account milestone, which triggered another fee reduction. So there was another $1 reduction in fees. So for those who get their account information digitally, the fee goes from $34 to $33, and those who have elected paper, their fee goes from $59 to $58. So good news there. It shows the power of the alliance when, as a group, we can reach these milestones, which can bring lower fees to our members. That's all I have, unless anyone out there has any questions about anything that I've spoke about today.
Any questions for Jeff? All right, thank you, Jeff. Next on our agenda, item number 5, read with the annual report to the General Assembly.
North Carolina's ABLE statute requires the board to provide an evaluation report and an update about the North Carolina ABLE program to the Joint Legislative Oversight Committee on Health and Human Services at the General Assembly. Each year, the board reviews and approves this report in the first quarter, and this is the 6th annual report for the board to the General Assembly. In your materials, you have the proposed report for calendar year 2022 as prepared by staff. And just briefly, the report has an overview of ABLE accounts, updated participation and performance numbers, summary of some of the program's marketing efforts, and a reference to the amendment of North Carolina's ABLE statute to bring it in line with the federal regulations that Jeff mentioned earlier. In particular, calling out 2 items in the looking forward section. First, increased contribution limits. The standard limit for contributing to an ABLE account is tied to the federal gift tax exclusion. And as of the first of the year, it increased from $16,000 a year to $17,000 a year. In addition, the limit on additional contributions by working account owners is tied to the one-person poverty limit, which increased to $13,590 from $12,880. Second, as the treasurer mentioned, Secure Act 2.0, which was enacted in December, increases eligibility for ABLE accounts. Currently, to be eligible for an account, your disability must have occurred before age 26. Secure 2.0 raises that to 46. Unfortunately, the effective date is January 1 of 2026. The report requires the board's approval, as I mentioned earlier. But before that, are there any questions about the report?
All right, any questions from board members? All right. So do I have a motion to approve the annual report?
Move,
Katie
this is Melinda.
Boston.
I think I heard Katie Boskin with the motion. Do we have a second?
Marquita, second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All right, we'll call the roll.
Tom Causey
Yes?
and Melinda Plew.
Yes.
And by chance, has Chris Egan or Tim Smith joined? Thank you.
All right, next item on our agenda, item number 6, communication and marketing update by Zora.
Thank you, Tom. I am going to give a high-level overview this morning of our communications efforts with the NC ABLE program over the last quarter. So really just continuing our positive momentum, we had a very active Q4. In Q4 alone, we participated in 6 different large events, including with the North Carolina State Fair, with different statewide events with the Autism Society of North Carolina, and with a new partnership with the National Inclusion Project. On top of that, we also celebrated National Disability Employment Awareness Month in October, and we were able to share different tools and resources across all of our social media channels. I know the treasurer had to step out, but I really want to thank him for his ongoing support and commitment to the NC ABLE program. In Q4, he actually visited with the North Carolina School for the Deaf. And not only did he share his personal and professional experience with the students, but he also engaged with students who helped create artwork that was inspired by NC Able. And in addition to this, we continue to get requests for our webinars. So in Q4, we did 3 different presentations, including co-presenting with the National Able Alliance. And that webinar actually featured an NC Able account holder and a parent. So in fact, our webinars have been so popular and we've gotten such great interest that in November, we actually launched our own webinar series. And this really kicked off with a discussion around NC Able accounts and special needs trusts. So big thank you to Reed for helping out with that one. Looking toward 2023, we're going to continue to use these webinars as a strong marketing tool for us. And we actually already have monthly webinars scheduled throughout the remainder of the year. So that's really exciting to see. Another big initiative for us was to continue to build up our website, ncable.org. So if you haven't recently visited our website, I really encourage you to take a look. You'll notice things like a built-out FAQ section. We have a page now dedicated to downloadable resources, like some of our brochures, and we also have a blog. Also in Q4, we saw a 91% increase in new visitors to our website. So not only is that really great to see, but we can also glean really important insights from these visitors about the tools and the resources that they're actually using. So things like our enrollment checklist, accessing your account through our website, and also downloading the enrollment forms continue to be very, very popular tools that we provide. Taking a look at our social media, we continue to see a steady and slow increase in our amount of followers, as well as an increase in engagement. And what's neat here is that we can directly correlate some of the increases in engagement we saw in Q4 with some of the events that we had a presence at statewide. So I know this was mentioned quite a bit earlier in the meeting, but at the end of Q4, the Able Age Adjustment Act passed, which is a huge development for our program. So we're really excited to continue to reach out to not only current eligible account holders, but also the large number of potential new account holders that this will open the program up to. I also want to extend a huge thank you to everyone in this room, the entire team and board on the phone. Honestly, thank you for your ongoing work with this program. We're a small but mighty team, and it's really exciting to see the program continue to grow. So that was quite a high-level overview, but I will stop here and turn it over to you all to see if there's any questions.
All right, any questions? All right, well, thank you, Zora. And we'll move on to item number 7, program manager update. Jose Gamboa.
Hi, good morning. Thank you so much. And Treasurer Falwell and his team, board members, for granting us an audience. Can you folks hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Excellent. And before passing it on to my colleagues, Paul Supe and Molly Peterson, just wanted to address some specific items. First and foremost, as Jeff had mentioned, we are working in collaboration and partnership with Alliance members to mediate those 2 enrollment flows. And again, we do extend our appreciation. We know North Carolina has been an active participant, an active contributor throughout this entire implementation. So again, we do appreciate it. We do value North Carolina's position and input as we try to navigate the next
Jose.
the second item too that Jeff has touched upon is the reduction in the annual account,
Jose, can you hear me?
which is hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Your audio is really choppy, and they're getting a bad echo on their those who are not in the room. I don't know if there's anything you can change. but we're having a hard time hearing you.
Are you still receiving an echo?
I'll have to, I don't know if somebody else can comment.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm still receiving one. If you're using a headset, maybe just not, I don't know, but it's bad.
I'm so sorry. Hello, can you hear me?
That's
I'll
clear.
let-
Better.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Excellent. So where did you folks lose me at? I'm so sorry. My apologies.
We could hear you. It was just very choppy and it was bad on those who are not in the room. So you could, I think you could pick up where you stopped.
Great. And I'm just actually checking doesn't seem like there's much of an echo at this point. But as Jeff had pointed out, we recently hit another breakpoint, the 35,000 breakpoint. And actually, that's the second instance in the past 12 months that we have done so. And again, to Jeff's point, it's the economies of scale, it's the power in numbers. So we're super thrilled, super excited. When you look at the last 13 months, 14 months or so, that's the third reduction in fee, whether it was through the program management fee, because you had reached the assets under management breakpoint, or the annual account maintenance fee. And really, this makes us essentially one of the most affordable able investment solutions out in the market at this point. So we're super thrilled about it. But I want to spare the board and Treasurer Falwell more echoing, so I'm going to pass it on to Paul, and that way he could perform his quarterly investment review.
Okay, thanks for that. Is my audio coming through okay?
It's good for us in the room. Yes? Okay, good.
Okay, perfect. So I'm going to start off, I guess it's on slide, the investment options. If you can move forward, I think, Jose. I don't know if you're doing it. Slide 17. So it should be right where the fund performance is. Right here, perfect. Thank you. So good morning to everyone, and thanks for joining us today. I'm going to start with kind of the asset growth of the plan, quarter over quarter and year over year. So even though we had, negative markets through most of the year, we did have good asset growth throughout 2022. A good portion of that coming in the fourth quarter. We had $2 million growth within just the fourth quarter alone, representing about 12.5% asset growth for the quarter. And it was about $2.5 million for the full year, a gain of about 16.5%. We saw healthy returns within that last quarter coming from most of those higher equity allocations. What we see in the overall National Able Alliance is about 55% of the assets are in those bottom three portfolios, conservative, moderately conservative, and the checking account. What we see in North Carolina Able is the exact opposite. Those 55% of the assets in that top four portfolios, the aggressive, moderately aggressive, growth, and moderate. So North Carolina Able is the most aggressive of all the states as far as their allocation. I believe only 3 states overall are above 50% in those top 4 portfolios. So in the last quarter with the higher equity, that definitely helped North Carolina assets even more with them kind of bounce back in the market. Looking at performance as far as the overall, returns and the marketplace, what we had we had kind of 4 major headwinds throughout the year: rising inflation, rising interest rates, supply chain issues, and geopolitical issues. And in the fourth quarter, we saw improvements in kind of all those factors, especially in three of those factors. In inflation, we saw the lowering of oil and natural gas prices. We saw housing affordability come back a little bit more in line. And we saw kind of for interest rates, we saw the Fed continue to raise rates, but at a slower pace. So that kind of helped the interest rates of bonds. And on the supply chain issues, at the beginning of the pandemic, it was just that people could not even get the goods that they wanted. A lot of markets and manufacturing was closed down for those pandemic issues. Those things are now opened up. China opened up a little bit as well, so that made the costs come down for transportation and storage costs. So that helped in the supply chain. Really, the only thing that has kind of stayed as a major headwind is that Russia and Ukraine situation, kind of those geopolitical issues. So we're still having some issues there, and we expect that's going to happen longer. But kind of the shock has worn off from that situation. So we're getting a little bit more back to normal as far as people have found places to get their resources, get their energy, and there's less a shock to the marketplace now. And on the bond side, we saw that kind of lowering of those interest rates because as the yields go up, they become less sensitive to increases that the Fed makes. So we actually saw positive performance on the fixed income side. So that's kind of helped rebuild some of the performance that we lost in the first three quarters, but overall was still a negative year in 2022. Moving to the next slide, we have kind of two more slides just going through the underlying funds here. The first one is the equity side. Those top two funds represent the U.S. equity market. The Vanguard Institutional Index represents the large caps. That's the S&P 500 tracks. And the Vanguard Extended Market looks at the small and mid-cap stocks. So here we can see as has been the case for most of the year, large caps outperforming those small and mid-cap stocks. And we see in the next two funds, we see the international exposure. So that iShares Core MSCI EFA covers kind of Europe, Asia, and Far East. Those are the developed countries from those regions. And then the Schwab Emerging Markets Funds covers those emerging market economies. So what we saw here is just like the past year, those developed countries, a little bit more mature, they've had, ended up having stronger results, leading the way, outperforming the emerging market side, which is usually a little bit more susceptible to higher interest rates. We did, however, see still a strong quarter for emerging markets, and really kind of both emerging markets and developed markets outperformed the U.S. markets. In the emerging market side, we saw a reopening of the Chinese economy. They had kind of zero COVID policy restrictions in place, and that was really kind of hurting business and manufacturing on that side. But those dropping of those restrictions really helped the Chinese market, which is about over a third of the emerging market index. So that was a real boost to the emerging market side. And overall, to all international equities, it was a boost to kind of all those funds just because of the U.S. dollar starting to weaken. It really kind of hit a high point of strength over September or so. And since that point, it's been weakening a little bit, which is a boost to kind of those international equity funds. So the last part of the equity part is the real estate component. We have that in place as kind of an additional component to help against inflation. Obviously, has struggled in 2022 because of those rising interest rates, but inflation is usually a lot stickier, and we'll see kind of inflation protection with this real estate sector as we go on. Obviously, kind of rents always kind of get a little bit higher. So as inflation gets higher, those rents follow. And right now we're at one of the highest points ever as far as rents compared to income. We're over an average of over 30% of rent goes, of a monthly paycheck goes towards rent nationwide. In some areas like New York City, that's as high as 68%. So really, as inflation goes, those rents will go, and that's really what feeds the income for a lot of these real estate. The last slide we'll go through is the underlying side for the fixed income. So throughout the year, we've been positioned to kind of shorter duration funds, which basically means that we have less interest rate sensitivity. So that's been a protection for these funds. Having rising interest rates, it lowers the negative performance that happens on these funds. We also have exposure to that international bond side. Central banks raise rates at a slower pace internationally than they do at the U.S. side. So that's really was a benefit to these portfolios as well. We're now getting to a point where we still expect in 2023 these interest rates to be going up. But if we look out to 2024, 2025, we might have to make some slight adjustments to these portfolios on the bond side where we have very short duration. So that's what we'll kind of look throughout this year and maybe make changes a year or a year and a half from now to that exposure. But for 2022, it was really kind of a benefit to these portfolios to have that diversification and to be kind of short that interest rate sensitivity. Any question on any of the performance?
All right, did any of the board members have questions on the performance or for a census as you look through your materials?
Nope.
No questions. This is Katie Boskin. I wanted to let you know that I was able to join via telephone.
Oh, thank you.
Right, thank you.
All right. So we're at the item number 8, public comments. Do we have any public comments? No public comments. Do any of the board members have any comments they want to share before we adjourn?
Just continued thanks to the staff for your hard work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
They do a great job, and they don't get enough praise. All right. Well, thank you. The date of our next meeting is May 10th at 9:30. And I guess the next thing is, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved, Melinda.
Thank you. And do I have a second?
Second, this is Katie.
Thank you. Any other discussion? All right, we'll call the roll.
Tom Causey
Yes.
and Marquita Robertson.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Meeting adjourned. Everyone have a great day.
Thank you.
This conference will